The only thing we have to be careful about is that there's always so much food on these holidays. You know, it's like Christmas and Easter. That's like you just have to worry about 2 days of eating.
Yeah.
We have to worry about like every week we got, you know, my wife is making a feast and we have to really know how to how to cut back.
It's interesting, right? Because one faith builds upon the other, right? So there's a sense where it's like I can quote a lot of Old Testament scriptures that are, you know, very dear to our faith, right? So it's a little tricky in that way.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap. I think for me, just the aspect of the Sabbath is so interesting, especially in this like social media age, and people are so connected to technology, and just having that concept of disconnecting yourself, even for like a day every week, that to me is something like I want to practice it, even though it's not, you know, a commandment in my faith, but it's still something that I see so much value in it.
For me, look, I get a thrill anytime I find an overlap from something that I find in the New Testament or the Quran. One of the reasons why we're here today is to talk about the story about the prophet Abraham and the sacrificing of his son. And having gone through that in the Quran and superimposing that over the biblical account, and then seeing some things in the New Testament really are, many of which are just recapitulations of things that you find in the Old Testament. They're exciting for me because it allows us to realize that we have so much more in common than what divides us.
In this story, the prophet Abraham, in the end, ultimately, as difficult as this test is, he trusts God's wisdom. And he recognizes, you know, as a human being, I can't see the full picture. I don't know how this is going to possibly turn out to be a blessing. But he has that trust in God, and he recognizes that God has wisdom that goes beyond any capability of a human being. And when he does so, he sees the blessing that comes. He sees the ram at the end. He sees what God's plan actually was. And that's a really important message for people to understand today, because it's really easy to try to understand God based on our human limitations.
Yeah, I think many times we can be seeking after the things of God and good life and health and satisfaction and all these things, but we need to realize that the actual source of those things is God himself. And so chasing after God and following him is way better than following the things that he has given us. And I think Abraham, as the Old Testament and the New Testament, many times the New Testament affirms just the key quote there that Abraham had faith in God and it was credited to him as righteousness. And so in the sense there, especially for us as Christians, you know, believing that salvation comes through faith, is that the emphasis there is that Abraham really demonstrated through his life, through this action, his faith was truly founded in God and in God's character and who God truly is.
The word in Hebrew for sacrifice is korban, which means an act of coming close. How do you say it in Arabic?
Korban.
Korban, okay. So the idea being is that how do I become close to my God? Which is the same way, how do you become close to another human being? I don't become close to you because you give me something. I become close to you because I give you of myself. So by giving to God and making God a priority in my life, that's how I become close to him. Making my life about something that's larger than myself attaches me to the Almighty, attaches me to God. And that's really what a korban is.